People will stay at the same rates because they're so afraid of losing people. But you will never grow, you'll never scale, you'll never do all the things that you want to do if you are catering to your fear.
Welcome to Did I Stutter with Jill Perick. And yeah, I probably did because I have a stuttering disability. But I'm also a multiple six-figure business and mindset coach who's here to help you shut down the mindfuckery of imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and playing the nice girl in your content so you and your brand can blow the fuck up and so you can stack the motherfucking cash. I'm holding absolutely nothing back. We're talking marketing, messaging, mindset, subconscious healing, nervous system regulation, and how to do it all even with raging anxiety, ADHD, and just being a fucking human. If fuck is one of your favorite words and nothing can get in between you, your iced coffee, or the work that you're here to do, I'm your girl. Let's dive in.
Hello, hello, my loves. We are walking. Hugo is being particularly slow today, so I thought that I would record a little potty episode for you. And by the time you're listening to this, it is October, and that means that the podcast has switched over to Did I Stutter? And I'm excited about this rebrand, you guys. I'm excited about it. It's been the From Imposter to Empowered podcast for, oh my God, years and years. I think I changed it in 28. No, that's a lie. In 2019, sorry. 2019, I decided to change it to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast, and that's how long that has been. But we are up leveling, we are upgrading, and having a stutter is one of the things that I talk about often. I'm sure you hear it all the time on the pod, and that is just a part of who I am. It's a piece of who I am. So I thought that that would be a really fun, cheeky little way to rebrand the pod. And today I want to talk to you about how I actually was able to make 71K in sales over the past 90 days. And I wanted to talk about it because I think the strategy is important. And I am largely a mindset girly, I am largely a belief girly. But when I transitioned over to like business and mindset coaching, like back in like 2022, 2023, I had a lot of insecurities around like the strategy and how I did things. And I also was kind of in a mastermind where there was like heavy strategy, and that mentor kind of made me believe that like I didn't know what I was talking about. And all that to say, the way that I was able to make sales and sign clients, re-sign clients over and over again, like I was like, I must be doing something right. So when I got the fuck over the fact that there really is no right way to run a business, I was able to blow the fuck up so much faster. Instead of thinking, oh, I'm doing things the wrong way or I'm teaching this the wrong way. And that is something that I just really want to drive home here as you are listening to this podcast episode is like there are so many different ways to grow your business, and you really do have to figure out, okay, how do I want to do content? How do I want to do sales? How do I want to scale my business? What offers do I want to have available? Right? And then you work with the people that align with that, that actually align with that. The problem was like when I was investing before, it was a lot of like, okay, I'm going to invest in coaches that are going to tell me what the strategy is, and they're going to give me the how, and there has to be a secret, right? And that is just so fucking wrong. Like that could not be more wrong. It is about how consistent you are. It is about how fucking resilient you are, and it is about, are you doing the strategy over and over again that aligns to fucking you and aligns to the kind of business that you want. And once you actually really embrace that, it will be a lot easier to scale and grow your business. So let's talk about the exact strategy and how I was able to make 71K in sales. I think it was like 25 to 28 in cash, thousand in cash, and then the rest of those sales. So that means that then I would see the rest of those sales over the next 6 to 12 months, right? So something I did was back in May, I decided to raise my prices. And I often do this. Like I often make small incremental changes to my rates. And I also had a couple people who were on the fence, and not on the fence of deciding to work with me, but more so like really dragging their feet. And when I was like, okay, you know what? I was gonna do this anyways, so I raised my rates for one-to-one, I raised my rates for the Real Deal Mastermind, and over the span of the last 90 days, and again, even before that in May, like I really did have to make the decision to raise my rates, and that meant that there were people that were not going to come with me, right? So this is actually like, this takes a lot of resilience. This takes a lot of confidence in yourself as well, and a lot of fucking self-trust, because people will stay at the same rates and they will give discounts and do all of the things, like, because they're so afraid of losing people, because they're so afraid of like turning somebody off, because they're so afraid that somebody who they've been nurturing or talking to is going to be like, you know what, never mind. And that's always a fucking possibility, but you will never grow, you'll never scale, you'll never do all the things that you want to do if you are catering to those people. And what you're doing is really just like catering to your fear and catering to the version of you that has the belief that like people won't pay this amount, right? And it's so interesting because a lot of the time there's not a big difference between the numbers, right? Like I think the difference was maybe less than $1,000 for my one-to-one, and yet I had this like block for like over a month around like, okay, well, if I raise it, what does this mean? If I tip it over this amount, what does this mean? You know what I'm saying? Something I also did was I took away my options for 3-month contracts. And again, I had to hold the line. I had to hold the line in that it was possible that people would not want to work with me, or they wouldn't sign on as fast because I didn't have the shorter option. But I did give the shorter option to a couple of one-to-one clients, knowing full well that all of them would re-sign when I was like, okay, at this point, you can sign on for 3 months. But after this, it's the extra 12 months, right? So again, I had to hold the fucking line. I had to hold the line. I had to make sure that I was staying on top of my own belief and not just shrinking in those moments of insecurity or being like, "Okay, is this actually going to work?" And it actually really did help me release people that like probably weren't going to come with me anyways, which is always extremely difficult. But it was definitely something that I needed to do. Okay, and then the next thing I did was I released a freebie. And okay, this also culminated to a 14.5K cash week and 21K in sales. Okay. So I don't have like the exact numbers, but ultimately, this led to a lot of people moving, deciding, taking action on what we had talked about in the DMs. And it's because it was very natural urgency. Now, do I always sell off of urgency and you need to do this now? Absolutely not. And that is not feasible either. Right. But I never create fake urgency. I never say, I'm raising my rates and then I fucking don't. I don't do that shit. And I think that's important, that when there is the opportunity to use natural urgency, then I will take it. So, moving on, the second thing I did was I spent time on a freebie called Signature Savage. You can download it at the link in the show notes. And that is where I talked about creating a financial foundation for yourself in the way of a signature offer, and how my signature offer, the Real Deal Mastermind, that used to be the From Imposter to Empower program, this turned into like something that has now made me 6 figures in sales, and it's just going to continue to. It's my signature offer. It's what I'm selling clients into constantly. And that is my signature offer. And I was like, you know what? This is something I get asked about all the fucking time. I did a Telegram day for $88, and oh my goodness, I sold so many of those, and multiple people were saying, like, I really am feeling the itch to have a signature offer, but they couldn't stay consistent with it. They weren't clear on the messaging. They had a bunch of other offers and they were kind of floundering all over the place, flopping all over the place. So this was a decision that I decided to make. I was like, I'm gonna talk about how I have made, at that point, it was 75K from the Real Deal Mastermind, but at this point, it's been well over six figures. So when I decided to do that, I spent the time on it. I did the whole training. I even did a slide deck for it. It was very legitimate and it was awesome. I got like over 20 downloads within the first 24 hours. Like I knew that there was something about this particular topic. And of course, I brought the mindset, the belief, all of that into it. And that freebie did really well. And it actually immediately led to somebody signing into the mastermind. Not because of like the email funnel or anything I did. Of course, I did it like an email funnel, but that is just like more so for awareness. It's not so much for like conversion. So that is something that I did think about is like, I know that whoever is consuming this would be an amazing fit for the Real Deal Mastermind. And whether it compels them to buy now or later, that's perfect. And then someone ended up being like, you know what, like I really need to be in the mastermind. So she did. So she signed. And that was a five-figure sale. So I released that freebie. Again, you can grab that at the link in my show notes. Um, and that was incredible. I loved it. And I usually only release freebies like maybe a couple times a year, but I am not really a big freebie gal. I would rather do a lot of really great content. I'd rather show up on my stories. I'd rather do that kind of stuff. And then I like to do lower paid, smaller offers instead of doing like constantly like free challenges or any of the type of that stuff. And that's just the way that I do things, right? And it works for me. So speaking of mini offers, I then sold a mini offer that naturally upgraded into my mastermind. And I actually re-signed a mastermind client into a figure package with that incentive. Now, I'm going to be real and honest with you guys here. In that mini offer, it was fucking incredible. It was so good, but nobody signed into the mastermind from that mini offer, even though they got a fucking kick-ass incentive that they're never going to get again. So, truthfully, I was like, dude, how could you not grab this? But I also have been in the game long enough to know, like, if somebody is choosing to work with me, I know that, like, this is just going to add to their desire to want to work with me. And even if they didn't grab the incentive now, even if they didn't join now, that doesn't mean that they won't join later. That doesn't mean that they're not going to join at some point. And that has always fucking happened. So don't feel discouraged if your mini offer or whatever the hell it is didn't lead to exactly how you thought it was supposed to go or lead to, because it's all compounding. All of the work that you're doing, all of the effort that is going into these offers, like the worst thing you can fucking do for yourself is have high expectations of like, okay, this offer is going to lead to this. And all of these clients in this offer are going to upgrade into this, and it's all very clean and predictable and organized. And y'all, that is not the way a fucking business goes. There are people who are going to be so involved in the offer and then they're not going to buy. And there's people who are going to lurk, like I did with my coach. And I think I bought maybe a $33 offer and then like a $55 offer. And then I signed on for a 30K package. right? Or my mastermind client who didn't even join the mini offer. She just joined the mastermind, right? At the full rate, even during the time where I was doing that smaller offer. So all of these things are okay. And it is just the cost of doing business. And it's very normal. And I think that's where I'm going to leave you this week. And we're going to do a part two next week on the way that I made 71K in sales. I'm giving you all of the strategy over the last 3 months. And I hope you guys love this episode, a little sneak peek into like the strategy behind it all, my thought process. And maybe next week we'll talk a bit about like not only the rest of the strategy, but also the belief and the mindset and the resilience behind all of this. Okay. And if you're listening to me and you're like, okay, Jill, I need to be in your world. I need to get this support in my own business with my own signature offer. You can go to the link in my show notes and you can download Signature Savage there for free. It's a free 90-minute training. Or come and fucking work with me in the Real Deal Mastermind or one-to-one coaching. Hit me up on the DMs at your coach Jill and let's fucking chat. Okay. Love you guys. See you next week.